Welcome to Off Screen. Let's get cinematic on your couch. I'm Becks Perfect.
I'm Van Connor. So let's get cinematic, you say. On the couch, boom. What could possibly go wrong? So we've got no cinemas. I mean, they are open. They're just not populated with new releases, really, as such, are they? or people. But we've got one or two that are sort of sneaking out. We're getting one or two sort of stealth releases into cinemas. I know we had Unhinged last week.
Yeah.
With Russell Crowe.
I got a little note to say it's now the number one in the UK box office.
What did I tell you? That's the reason. That's the reason to release a film right now. You are guaranteed that number one slot. So Unhinged, when it winds up on like VOD in a fortnight, when it winds up on like Sky Cinema by the beginning of September, they can generally claim it was the US, it was the UK box office number one.
Yeah,
and it'll sell it for them. Why not? It's very clever.
Yes, indeed. But there are still other great movies out there as well if you haven't managed to catch Unhinged and aren't going to the cinema. This is what's available on digital. We're going to kick off with our first review of the day, which is Around the Sun. It's available on Monday for your viewing pleasure. Van, what's it all about?
So this one's been out for a couple of days, and where to begin with this little doozy? I'm sorry, we're going to undo our own point there, I think, when it comes to the still worthwhile things to see at home. This one's going to auspiciously underline that one for us. This is the feature directorial debut of Oliver Krimpas. I think he's a Greek-British filmmaker. It is essentially a sort of mediated before sunrise-like rom-com. I think it thinks it is. In that, it genuinely wants to be before sunrise. What it is, it centers around a location scout for a film who turns up at this manor house to meet like the estate agent or the property manager and sort of tour the grounds and work out how to, if they can make this movie here. And the house, the stately home, turns out to be where this iconic philosophy book was written way back in the 17th century. And so the same scene gets played out multiple times between these two characters who are flirting and looking around this house in representation of different elements of this philosophical book. I've not got a clip for you. I could barely find a trailer for it, if I was being honest. And having sat and watched the entire thing, I can actually kind of see why. I was half an hour into this before I was bashing out the old, oh, come on, someone throw a pie already, kind of a mood. There's like not a single scene transition in it. Just every scene is sort of like bridged over with an established sort of someone staring into the middle distance while Stephen Gotine's score, this intolerably cloy score, just swells up. It's an agonizing affair. By the time they drop like this sort of Pride and Prejudice sequence in about halfway through, with this really awful sound design that drowns out all the dialogue over the sound of the cheap costumes sort of crinkling below the lav mic. By the time you get to that, you're just, I'm out of this. I really am. I don't know what they can do to hook me back in. It just doesn't work. The characters have no chemistry. So the performers have no chemistry. The characters themselves are devoid of a lot of likability or charisma. It's... Put it this way, if the story of this is meant to be that these two people get together, it's likely because they're the only two people on Earth who could stand one another. No one else would.
You know what? Do you remember when we reviewed The Assistant and I said like there's nothing really happens? It sounds like in terms of the quality of filmmaking, The Assistant is much, much better. It feels more Soderbergh-esque in its style, but this just kind of feels like it's going to be the same sort of pulling teeth issue as well, where you just want like, really get a move on.
Yeah, the whole Before Sunrise comparison terrified me, actually, because my overriding concern through all of this was, oh, please, dear Lord, tell me I don't have to sit through two more of these like I did with at least those had Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. They were charming. This, I couldn't live through three of these, definitely. I could barely make it through one. I'm giving this a half thumb up at best. Wow. And that's only because it has a tidy runtime of 78 minutes. But even then, you can't give it a full thumb for that, because those 78 minutes do still feel about 8 days long.
Wow. Well, talk about starting on a high. Let's hope our next offering is a little bit more optimistic. So this is quite a big one, actually. This is a Seth Rogen movie. It's called An American Pickle. It's available from Friday. Van, you were excited about this one, I know.
Well, the thing is as well, first of all, this is going to cinemas in this country. It's going to be available on digital in other countries via HBO Max. We don't get that here. So we're getting it actually in cinemas. And it's a very strange piece because on the one hand, it does feel like it has been made for streaming. It's the kind of concept they wouldn't let Seth Rogen do and put in cinemas. It's very... remember, you ever see Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
With that kind of weird, we're doing a comedy, but we're doing it as an indie dramedy move. And this follows Seth Rogen in two roles. First of all, as Herschel Greenbaum from the Eastern European country of Slupsk, I think it is, which is meant to be this sort of Borat-like kind of a land where everything is shot in sepia and 4:3 ratio, and all he and his wife dream of doing is going to America where they can achieve their dream of one day being rich enough to own their own gravestone. That kind of rich. They go to America in what I think is meant to be like the late 20s, early 30s, like kind of pre-depression America. To pursue the American dream, he becomes a rat smasher in a Brooklyn pickle factory, only to then fall into a vat of pickle brine moments before the factory closes and is condemned, and he's then woken up from suspended animation 100 years later, where he is taken in by his only surviving relative, Ben Greenbaum, who's also played by Seth Rogen, in full hipster mode. And it's all about how the sort of rivalry erupts between them, and they have to navigate what for Herschel is this whole brand new world that he simply will not let get in the way of his meager, intended, desired piece of the American dream.
It's been 100 years. The pickle brine preserved him perfectly.
Get too old to lose it.
The world has changed. Everyone I know is gone.
You were able to track down a great-grandson.
Greenbaum! This is nuts.
Walk past the cafe, but you don't eat when you live to...
Your parents, where are they? They passed away. It was a car crash. He will tell me everything of their deaths, how their bodies died, their faces as the life left. We will bond over our pain. Mm-hmm.
So forget cryogenic freezing. It's pickling is the future.
Pickling, yeah.
I quite like this, but I don't think this is something that I would expect to watch in the cinema, as you say. I think this is something you watch with your friends. Maybe you're doing a few little fun things whilst you're watching it. It sounds a bit obscure and a little bit out there, and classic Seth Rogen, I suppose, in a way.
I had a great time with it. It's a tidy sort of 100-minute long kind of a movie. It's got two really good performances. Rogen sort of parodies what is seen to be the perception of himself as the modern incarnation of Greenbaum, as Ben, the millennial app designer, who just play that sort of more woke angle that you've seen Seth Rogen do in This Is the End, for instance, where he plays himself. And you also get to see him taking a more of a broad Sacha Baron Cohen-like swing at something like Herschel. And there's a little bit of that, and there's a little bit of Taika Waititi surrealism in the sort of tonal sensibilities of it as well. At the same time, it also wants to be, a sort of more satirical kind of a comedy. It wants to poke fun at Brooklyn hipsters, for instance, and it wants to poke fun at people who drink too much kombucha and everything being ethically sustained, things like that. So it has some fun with how the idea that something that's so luxurious to someone from the 1920s is something so common and everyday to us. And there's this whole gag, for instance, how he desperately wants to try seltzer water, soda water. That's his lifelong dream. And of course, Ben, being a millennial, just has a soda stream in the house. And it's that kind of insight that really makes the film. There's some really hefty and solid gags in it. It's not a huge scale like Saturday night, kind of the multiplex thing, like you say. But I think fans of Seth Rogen definitely in for a treat. I am one. I had a great time with it. But I think anyone looking for a sharp comedy, there's a lot of fun to be found. And there's two very loud thumbs up from me.
Well, there you go, guys. That's American Pickle. That is available from Friday, but you can also catch probably not the highest recommendation around the world, but it is called Around the Sun, and that's already available on digital as well for you. So there you go. There's two top picks. We're going to be coming back very shortly with some movies on TV for you, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Off Screen, and ever keeping you on that ever so comfy sofa. It's time for some movies on Freeview, Miss Perfect. So, movies to watch at home, on channels we all have access to. Because, I'll be honest, we'd have so many more sort of offbeat picks if we could include some of, like, the weird cable channels that some people have as, like, Freeview. Like Sci-Fi. Is Sci-Fi a Freeview channel or not? I can never get a definitive answer on that.
Well, I think we've included it every now and again. If something amazing has popped up, we've dropped it in here because we know that loads of you listening do enjoy it. So, look, sometimes we like to put in a little bit of a curveball there for you, so don't worry. But in general, you're getting stuff that is available to everyone, which is great.
Curveballs is definitely the name of the game this week, though. So we're taking some wild swings with this lineup. So I'm going to start you Saturday, early evening, so 6:10 on 5-Star. A comedy from 2008 that I saw on DVD, I think, when it first came out. Didn't particularly care for it. My dear friend Kelly would later tell me, you need to revisit this. It's an unappreciated modern classic. I did. I now agree with her. It is The House Bunny, starring Anna Faris as a Playboy centerfold playmate who finds herself, through scheming and machination, kicked out of the Playboy mansion and forced to take up as effectively the sort of den mother of a sorority house filled with sort of nebbish, loserish, nerdish girls, led by Emma Stone, and she must make them over and turn them into the belles of the ball, aka, slash the queens of campus. I've got a clip for you of Shelley's version of what fundraising should be like for college-age girls.
I just had the best idea for our philanthropy. Philanthropy. We are going to volunteer at Oliver's nursing home. Who is Oliver? He's this guy I just met. He's really sweet. And he's kind of cute, too.
Oh, well, I don't know if you guys can recognize this, but Shelley is meeting guys. And if she knows how to meet guys, then we will learn how to meet guys. Then more girls will want to hang out with us, hence more pledges.
Yeah, hence. Okay, here's what we need to do. We need to get all dressed up, and then we need to go to a club and drink fruity drinks and dirty dance with each other.
Oh! Why?
To bond, you old grumpy.
Do you know what? I'm actually annoyed at myself that I haven't actually watched this. This sounds great. It's like an hour and 40...
really good fun.
Yeah, an hour and 40 minutes long. I love Emma Stone. I think Anna Faris is great in her comedic roles that she plays like this. So what's not to love?
I mean, it's got a cast that includes Colin Hanks as the love interest in there. Emma Stone is a sort of, head girl of the sorority house. And this is Emma Stone in, like, her nerd girl mode.
Yeah.
Where she's just got her hair tied back and slightly disheveled, and she's got some glasses on, but we're expected not to think that is Emma Stone, as the gorgeous and wonderful Emma Stone. Kat Dennings is in there as well. Catherine McPhee, Rumer Willis. These are all like members of the sorority house. You've got Beverly D'Angelo, who's the scheming, head sorority lady who wants to shut them down, and you've got Christopher McDonald, who's like the dean of the university. It's got everything you would love from a 90s comedy in a comedy from 2008, and it still works and it still holds up, and Anna Faris is great.
Well, seeing how you've just listed the girls in the sorority house, I can completely see why you rushed to watch this back in 2008.
2008, yeah, totally, yeah.
But I mean, for me, I think this sounds brilliant. I love this kind of movie, and it's an easy watch. So do you know what? It's on at 6:10 p.m, so it's not going to be anything too risque when it's on at that time. It's on 5-Star as well on Saturday, so that'll be a bit of fun to start your Saturday night off. Speaking of starting your Saturday night off, we're going to go straight into Sunday after you've had your partying and you just want to chill out a bit. You might want to watch Saving Mr. Banks on BBC One at 10:30 p.m. on Sunday. Now that is I think an unfortunate time to watch Saving Mr. Banks. I think it should be earlier. Yeah, but I
put Mr. Banks on at like 7 p.m. I love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's got brilliant. Tom Hanks is in this as Walt Disney himself, and then we've also got Emma Thompson in this as well, and plus Colin Farrell, Jason Schwartz is in this as well. And do you know what? It's a really, really delightful movie. It
is. This is the story of P.L. Travers basically arguing with the creative process at Disney as they were trying to make a live-action animation hybrid movie of Mary Poppins, as we now know it, starring Julie Andrews. And do you know what? Who can say it better? Who can set the tone better for us than P.L. Travers herself?
This is the rest of your team. This is Dick and Bob Sherman, music and lyrics voice, the one and only Mrs. P.L. Travers, the creator of our beloved Mary Poppins. Who else?
Mary Poppins. Never ever just Mary. Pleasure to meet you. Fear we shan't be acquainted for very long.
Why is that?
Because these books simply do not lend themselves to chirping and prancing. No, certainly not a musical. Now, where is Mr. Disney? I should so much like to get this started and finished as briskly as is humanly possible. Perhaps someone could point me in his direction. I'd be so grateful. Thank you.
Do you know what? If you're a fan of kind of learning more about the process of what went into, making Mary Poppins what it was, if on Disney Plus as well, just as a side note, there is a show called Prop Culture, which is all about all the big props and stuff that we use behind the scenes of all the great Disney movies. And they do go to Walt Disney in one of the episodes. It's not related to Mary Poppins, but they do go to his office, and there's a big piano there, a big grand piano, and there's only two people that outside of the Disney company that are allowed to play that piano, and it's one of them who came up with like the music for a spoonful of sugar or something like that. So that's lovely to see. And I think that links quite nicely to this, because you might see him show up on this movie.
Did his office look the same by that point as it did in this movie? Because I love his office, sort of Mad Men style office that he has.
Yes.
So I mean, also there is as well as the relationship between P.L. Travers and Walt Disney, is also the story of her relationship with her own father, who, as you pointed out, is Colin Farrell, who we see in Flashback. Wonderful performance there from him as well. But definitely check out Saving Mr. Banks at 10:30 on Sunday night on BBC One. Over on Monday night, Film 4, 11:25 p.m. Again, a bit of a late one, but if you can get it recorded or you can seek it elsewhere, this is a great one to catch generally. Denzel Washington, Oscar-nominated performance in Roman J. Israel Esquire. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, because this is a really interesting story about quite a quirky, unconventional lawyer called Roman, who basically he has to take over because his firm's owner suffers from a heart attack, and so it kind of all falls on him. But he's like not the most. He's a bit socially awkward, a little bit different.
It's integrated. You've been the small fish for so long. When you're put into a bigger pond, you sort of have to acclimatise differently. Everyone has accepted his quirks, as it were.
Well, yeah, and his quirks being he walks around with like those old school headphones that he loves to wear. He's like in his own little world. You kind of think that he's not really the kind of person that this is this great mind, and actually it turns it on its head completely.
Civil or uncivil disobedience. The First Amendment to protect your right to freedom of speech, as long as you don't incite violence or law breaking. And there are going to be people that get caught up in the march. They're going to vandalize. I'm sorry, excuse me. I see two sisters standing. Why are the sisters standing and the brothers sitting?
If we want to sit, we can ask.
Well, you ladies got to speak up for yourselves.
Say 40 years ago.
There's no statute of limitations on chivalry.
That's gendered and sexist.
And polite.
And patronizing.
And polite.
I really loved him in this film. His performance is terrific. It's not so much just about adapting the sort of the behavioural tones, the sort of dialogue-driven behavioural tones of the character. He also just brings this physicality to it, the way that Roman sort of moves, this sort of lumbering way that he moves around. It's great, and it's a film that goes in directions I honestly just did not see it going. I was like, okay, this is far more out there than I expected, but a really good sort of character-driven legal drama, and I think Denzel's terrific in it. When is he not terrific?
Exactly.
But you can see that.
Yeah, do we need to say any more? You know, when it's a movie with Denzel, it's going to be quality in terms of the character that he portrays. Even if the film doesn't hold up, you know you're going to watch a great performance. So, yeah, as you were saying, that is your Monday night. It's a late one, isn't it? It's on Film 4 at 11:25 p.m. But as Van alluded to, press that record button and enjoy it in your own sweet time. So there we go. That is Movies on TV. That's the first part of it. We're going to catch up with you in just a moment with all the next half of the week for you, and we've got some good ones.
Welcome back to Offscreen and your roundup of films to catch on Freeview for this week. So, on to Tuesday then, Miss Perfect, and Dodgeball. I mean, we love this movie. This is the one we have to talk about every chance we get. It's on E4. It's on at 9 p.m. Perfect time for it, I would say as well. Watch Dodgeball, a tight 90-minute kind of a comedy, 2 hours with change if you've got adverts, and then get to bed early afterwards. I think that's a good Tuesday evening. What do you think?
I think that's a perfect Tuesday evening. I mean, if you haven't seen Dodgeball Dodgeball. Who are you? First and foremost. And if you haven't seen it in a while, welcome to your Tuesday night.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because Dodgeball's one of those films that it's brilliant the first time you see it, but even if you have seen it and you just leave it like a year or a year, 2 years, something like that, and then you see it again, you've forgotten enough that it's still blindingly funny, and there's so much to love, like Jason Bateman being Cotton, the commentator for ESPN, the Ocho. We've got Chuck Norris, and then we've got Steve the Pirate. Of course, the whole film revolves around the average Joe's gym, joining the International Dodgeball League in order to stave off acquisition from Globo Gym, as run by Ben Stiller's evil fitness figurehead. And I tell you what, I mean, I wanted to find the perfect clip to sum up why Dodgeball is so brilliant, and I just thought, well, what's aged better than this from Lance Armstrong?
Once I was thinking about quitting when I was diagnosed with brain, lung, and testicular cancer, all at the same time. But with the love and support of my friends and family, I got back on the bike, and I won the Tour de France 5 times in a row. But I'm sure you have a good reason to quit. So what are you dying from that's keeping you from the finals?
Right now feels a little bit like shame.
Well, I guess if a person never quit when the going got tough, they wouldn't have anything to regret for the rest of their life. But good luck to you, Peter. I'm sure this decision won't haunt you forever.
Oh my goodness. Lance Armstrong.
You'd forgotten about that, hadn't you?
I've forgotten about that. Live strong, live strong. Lance Armstrong. Wow, I'm not going to say much more than that has just dated it.
It really has. So that was a long time. Was it 2003, 2004 Dodgeball? I think it's 2003.
2004.
A lot has happened in 17 years, put it that way.
Wowzers. Yeah, God, I just, you know what, that yellow wristband just popped straight into my head when I
it does, doesn't it? It's amazing how his voice just brings it flooding back to your wrist, doesn't it?
Yeah. Look,
but sticking with some sports then.
Yeah.
Let's cover 4/7 at 10 p.m. on Wednesday with another sporting film. They're not all sporting films this week, but this one is Battle of the Sexes, again with Emma Stone, but this time with Steve Carell, and this was a real match in the 70s, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And do you know what? I think this is like a really exciting tennis film. I remember watching this at the cinemas. It's about 2 hours long. It covers the tennis match between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. And there is just, it's the dynamic between the two, which are obviously played by Emma Stone and also Steve Carell. And it is seen as, it took place in 1973. It was seen as one of the greatest tennis matches because there's just so much, like, but it is a battle of the sexes. Like, how else can you describe it? It's about a guy and a girl who basically are trying to outdo each other. It's obnoxious, it's kind of in your face, and it works on every single level. I love this movie.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love women in the bedroom and in the kitchen. But these days, they want to be everywhere. They want to be doing everything. Where is it going to end? Pretty soon, us fellas aren't going to be able to go to a ball game. We're not going to be able to go fishing. We're not going to be able to stop and have a drink after work. And that's what this whole women's lib thing is about. And it's got to stop. And Bobby Riggs is the man to stop it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Custer's last stand. This is the lobber versus the lever.
Keep talking, Bobby. The more nonsense you spout, the worse it's going to be when you lose.
Well, I'm the ladies' number one. I'm the champ. Why would I lose?
Because dinosaurs can't play tennis?
I'm going to put the show back in chauvinism.
I mean, doesn't that just rounds it up there? I'm putting the show back in chauvinism. That is exactly what it's about. Yeah. You hate Steve Carell in this. You really do. This is all, like, this match, essentially, and the New York Times describes it so well. It was a tennis match that became a referendum on equality. And that's exactly what this film is. So it's got, it happened in real life. It's a real story. These are real people. This actually happened. You'll want to see it play out. Great performances. fantastic choice of cast with Emma Stone, Steve Carell, but also Andrea Riseborough is in this as well. Sarah Silverman, great cast, worth your time to watch if you didn't catch it in the cinema when it originally came out.
Do you know, as well, I mean, it makes me think back on one of the last films we got to see in cinemas before lockdown, which was Misbehaviour, which was also a 70s set thing about female representation. I want to see that again. Anyway, completely different tone for our next one. Then let's talk about Thursday night. Let's. I don't know about you, but I like a comedy on a Thursday night. Film 4's got one at 9 p.m. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but you know what? I don't know about you, I occasionally enjoy a bit of Jackass. I can't help myself. I know it's a base instinct. It's something I should be above, but I can't help myself. It's like watching Top Gear, the old school Top Gear, the second generation.
I remember watching Jackass a lot during school. Me and my guy mates and stuff like that would just sit and we'd have a really fun time watching it. Funnily enough, none of my girlfriends really enjoyed watching it, so maybe I was that kind of hybrid in terms of what I really enjoyed. So we got Action Point, which is on Film 4 at 9 p.m. This is something I haven't seen yet, but you know all about it.
This is like a hybrid thing. Like you say, I mean, obviously Jackass, because of its stupidity, largely skewed male. What they've done now is they've added plot to that stupidity. So we had Bad Grandpa, and now we've had Action Point. So the idea is you get something like Borat, where there is actually a narrative being played out. There is a story being told, but the stunts and everything are completely improvised. So it's exactly like that. So what you've got is an amusement park in the 70s. This is based on a true story as well. I think it was Action Park originally, the actual place, and they've changed to Action Point for the film. I think it was in New Jersey, and the owner just disregarded every safety regulation he possibly could because he knew it would make him popular. And it became about flying in the face of local congressmen and district councilmen who were trying to shut them down in order to make the almighty buck and save the park.
A very exciting day here today, and I would like to applaud Trustwood Developments for all their efforts on helping us revitalize downtown Calico Ridge.
Yeah, but what are you going to do about Action Point?
Yeah. Excuse me?
Action Point, that place is out of control.
That guy's right. They just put in a zip line there, and all the girls are flashing their
No, I didn't know
beer
that.
is so cheap, they're practically giving it away.
Action Point is the craziest place with the most dangerous rides in the world. Who do we want to close? Action Point! And when do we want to close it? After Labor Day! Action Point is
It's not exactly what you'd call highbrow, but you know what? It's perfectly fine if you want a really throwaway 90-minute comedy with some Jackass stunts. And you know, it's got the usual recruits. You know, Knoxville's there, Chris Pontius is there. You know, there's a couple other guys come in. I liked it. I had a couple of chuckles with it. It's an academically terrible movie, but you'll enjoy it. So what's not to love?
I mean, it's nostalgic in its own right, isn't it? Because 20 years ago, this was like the top things. Like everyone loved Jackass, and this was when you watched it. So if you need that little bit of a throwback, then this is definitely the movie for you. Now, rounding off our week. After that plays on Film 4 at 9 p.m. is your Friday movie, which is Money Monster. It's on Sony Movies at 11:05 p.m. Another late one, but you know what? It's worth staying up for because this is the George Clooney-led movie about essentially a guy who talks on TV about giving out investments. He's quite well known. You can kind of imagine like a CNN pundits type of thing. There happens to be a shootout that takes place because a guy who's followed him to the nth degree has lost a load of money after investing in a company that is backed by this guy on telly, and so takes him hostage. It's a well done movie. It stars Jack O'Connell as well. It's worth your time for sure.
Shut up about the glitch, all right? What the hell does that even mean? You see, you don't even know. I'm not stupidly, I told you. Because somehow these clowns lost $800 million overnight. And nobody's even actually explained how. How is something like that even possible, huh? It's not a rhetorical question. I want to answer.
What do you want from me, man? I don't run IBIS. I'm just a guy on TV.
Shut up, Lee! Shut up!
I'm not really a fan of Jack O'Connell generally, but I do really like him in this film. I think he's very good. Incidentally, do you remember who directed this before we end this? Do you remember who directed this by any chance?
Yes, I do. It's also the woman that's in the booth watching it. It's Jodie Foster.
Well, no, in the booth is Julia Roberts.
Oh, sorry, Julia Roberts.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because she's playing very much. Yeah, she's playing very much what would have been the Jodie Foster role if you'd done this 15, 20 years ago.
Yes, you're right. You're 100% right. So, yes, sorry, my mistake. So, Julia Roberts, another J, another big powerhouse actress is in there. So, yeah, Julia Roberts is in the booth. So, she's like the director or producer in his ear and basically trying to navigate the scenario as it plays out, because it's like a one-on-one between Jack O'Connell and George Clooney. And all everyone else can do, including ourselves as the audience, is watch. And I think that's a really clever take that Jodie Foster's actually taken from a directorial point of view.
Because it feels like it's near real time as well. Like, it feels like this unfolds over like 90 to 100 minutes. It's a very tense thriller. It really does work. I think it's one of those things that would get obscured in memory by something like Inside Man, which, funnily enough, also starred Jodie Foster. But other than that, I can't recommend it highly enough. I think it's a really fun, flighty thriller for a Friday night. It's maybe on a bit smidge too late at 11:05, but good one to end the week with, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't seen it before, take a look at the poster for this movie as well. I think it's brilliantly constructed. It's basically the multicoloured, like rainbow sort of thing when a TV show goes off air, all of a sudden. It's that, which is a title block, and then you've got George Clooney behind it. I think it's really striking. Anyway, yeah, I completely agree with Van. A great way to round off your weekend. So we've got for you, seeing in the next few days of your week, you've got Dodgeball, you've got Battle of the Sexes, you've got Action Point, and you round off your week with Money Monster. So those are your movies on TV on Freeview. Coming up next, we've got your home entertainment and video on demand with your DVD and Blu-ray and streaming. Welcome back to Offscreen. This is your final segment of this week's podcast, and it's all about your DVDs, your Blu-rays, and your super streams as well. So we've got an amazing plethora of incredible movies from yesteryear that you are going to absolutely love on this selection. And I cannot wait to kick off with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure 4K. Yes, it is seeing the Wild Stallions in that beautiful 4K pixelation, because it is going to be amazing to watch this. I love this. This is them, the two kind of, I suppose not, I wouldn't say high school dropouts because they're not, but they're certainly not the brightest tools in the box. And they are tasked with coming up with something super special for their history presentation in order to pass their year at school. So what do? Because the fate of the future is in their hands, they get joined by someone from the future called Sam, is it?
Rufus.
No, Rufus. I'm thinking of Quantum Leap. Whoa.
I think you've got definitely Quantum Leap.
And they go back in time and basically pick up amazing people from history to join their presentation. So you've got like Billy the Kid, Genghis Khan, Joan of Arc, all that stuff. And it is one hell of a wild ride.
It really is. And, obviously they've put this into 4K because Bill and Ted Face the Music is mere weeks away at this point. Yeah. And annoyingly, they've done the same thing here that they did with when they reissued them for DVD way back when, which is let's put all the effort into doing Excellent Adventure first and then just forget about Bogus Journey. Always annoys me when they do that, because I personally think Bogus Journey is very underrated, but Excellent Adventure lives up to its title. It is a genuinely excellent adventure. I would be excited to see it in 4K, to be honest, as indeed I would our other 4K offering for the week, which I know you're very excited about. It is, of course, the classic, the one that is Flash.
Savior of the universe. This is a movie, right, that I watched with my dad as I was growing up, right? And this is pure nostalgia. We were talking just off air about how it had a resurgence when it was brought back on in Ted, in the film Ted, and that's because it strikes a chord with so many of us that remember this movie. It's brilliant.
My God!
What is this, a civic reception?
More like a police state.
If it is, that could be our good luck.
Why?
It means we'll find allies on every side. Look at them. The poor wretches are just waiting for someone to lead them in revolt.
Oh, are you looking at me, Zarkov?
Yes.
Geez, stop talking about revolts. I just want to get back home alive.
So Sam Jones there, and the cast of Flash Gordon, which is, say, a classic. Obviously, it's the story of, Flash Gordon, potential NFL star, who gets, I think it's on his way to start for the New York Jets or something, gets abducted by Zardos's experiment, gets taken to the planet Mongo, and must become the unlikely Luke Skywalker-like freedom fighter who will free the galaxy. It's bonkers. I love it. But so you can relive all that fun for yourself, including a very young, very swashbuckling Timothy Dalton in there as a love rival as well.
Yeah. And don't you remember, like, whatever that tree is that you have to stick your hand into, like, gave me nightmares.
The scorpions inside the tree, was it something like that?
Oh, it was horrible. Look, brilliant. You got Brian Blessed in there. You got Max von Sydow as well as Emperor Ming in this. I mean, it is bonkers.
Ming.
It's the great, like, 70s bonkersness that every kid should have grown up watching. It's weirdly wholesome in its own right. But yeah, that is available on DVD and Blu-ray, not to be missed. I mean, that is nostalgia in a nutshell from both of those two offerings there. Let's move across to streaming, though, because we've also got another. I suppose it can fall into the nostalgic category because it was a good 15, if not more, years ago when The Wedding Singer first came out.
98, I want to say, was like
20 years ago.
98, I think.
God, I remember
20, almost 22 years.
That's incredible. I remember watching this en route on a boat to the north of Spain, and it was like a 24-hour boat ride, and so they had a cinema on there, and me and my friends just watched it and loved it. There's Steve Buscemi, Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore. It's brilliant. It's available on Amazon Prime from Sunday. Well worth a watch because it's Adam Sandler in a comedy, but he's not going bonkers comedy. It's kind of, he brings it back a little bit.
I think this is the first time I can remember watching one of these films and actually seeing Adam Sandler working as a viable romantic lead.
Yeah.
Like, I think he actually works here, and a large part of that is they found a way to just sand down the edges of his personality just enough to make him still quite likable on a sort of fundamental human level. I think he's great fun in this. It also, just hashtag, justice for Glenn Goulia. Just throwing that out there as well. Unsung hero of The Wedding Singer. As far as I'm concerned, the main characters of The Wedding Singer are actually Glenn Goulia and Julia's hot cousin. So, but the rest of the film is just this distraction that gets in the way of the true tale that needs to be told at the core of The Wedding Singer. Holly, that's it, the hot cousin. But of course, The Wedding Singer, it's all well and good, but it can't compare to the ultimate concept for a movie. I'm sure you remember in the run-up to the release of our next streaming offering how excited I was by the prospect of Jason Statham fighting a giant shark. The movie is, of course, The Meg. It arrives on Amazon Prime from next Friday, the 14th. You've got Wedding Singer coming this Sunday, the 9th. The Meg is on next Friday for the 14th. And it is literally Jason Statham fights a giant prehistoric megalodon, the Mega Shark. That's the movie. There's nothing more to it. Don't look for nuance. Don't look for depth. Jason Statham's fighting a shark.
Wow.
She's coming. Oh, boy.
It was the largest shark that ever existed.
Thought to have been extinct for 2 million years.
That thing's out there. We need to find it and kill it.
Why don't you just put a tracker on it? Did you guys ever watch Shark Week?
I've never seen this film because...
Wow.
Well, no. No, wow. Because you said it's just Jason Statham fighting a giant shark. I mean, there wasn't really much that I wanted to watch about that.
What about that wouldn't you want to watch? I mean, they don't dance around it either. At one point in this movie, dude literally takes a knife between his teeth and jumps into the water to fight a giant shark. In no other movie would you see that. And do you know what? Hats off to him.
Does he punch him between the eyes? Does he punch the shark? That's how you defeat a shark. You punch it between the eyes.
It's like 90 feet across. Of course he can't punch that square between the eyes.
And I rest my case.
I have a boat between his eyes.
I have no interest in seeing this movie, but I know so many people loved it because it's so ridiculous.
I'm not going to rest, Becks, until you've seen The Meg and apologise and declare your love for it because I know you will.
Let's move on, shall we? because
Let's move on to another declaration of love then.
Okay, fine. So this is more up my street. When Harry Met Sally, no, you're not thinking about that one. We're watching another one with Meg Ryan in it, though. It's You've Got Mail, and it is on Amazon Prime from Friday the 14th of August. This is, again, Sleepless in Seattle ×2, is it not?
So this was the third film to feature the, by then, quite beloved pairing of Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. They were literally America's sweethearts at that point.
Yeah.
In fact, the actual comedy American Sweethearts is loosely based on the concept of them as stars. I think they first started together in Joe and the Volcano, I think, in 1989. You had Sleepless in Seattle was 93, and You've Got Mail is 1998. And this is, of course, a remake of the old movie The Little Shop Around the Corner, in which the owners of rival stores fall in love, but are, of course, corresponding, and of course this being made in 1998. How else could you possibly jazz that up, Miss Perfect?
I know, this is, like, to me, this is kind of when we were growing up and you kind of watch stuff like this and you're kind of like, I want to fall in love with someone like that. It's that kind of, like, feel to it. Obviously, real life is just as beautiful as it is on a screen. But yeah, they are a perfect pairing in this.
I always want to fall in love with someone via AOL mail. That's still one of my dreams.
I know, if only it still really existed. So Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, great pairing, perfect for the 90s. This rom-com romance is 2 hours long, but it's gentle, it's sweet, it's something that you kind of, it doesn't quite hit the heights of Sleepless in Seattle in my mind. It's kind of just slightly below, but still very watchable nonetheless. What more is there to say? It's like a Mega Shark and Jason Statham. It's just a perfect pairing, am I right?
I'm glad you're coming to see it my way. But either way, on that Friday the 14th, if you're on Amazon Prime, you've got a decent choice there. You've got a decent choice between Jason Statham and the Giant Shark and Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. So I'd argue that one really is a judgment call. But you can look forward to that next Friday anyway from Prime. In the meanwhile, don't forget Knives Out is on Prime now.
Yes.
What a movie, right?
Yeah, and if you're an Amazon Prime member, there's it's free, to watch it. And it's
exactly.
Yeah, if you love Poirot, you love Miss Marple, you love Cluedo, this is the movie for you. It's the ultimate whodunit. And of course, we just love Daniel Craig with his southern drawl. It's just a brilliant film. So Amazon Prime.
I suspect no foul play.
Do you know what? Amazon Prime is smashing it at the moment, so it's got some great options for you there.
They're getting a hell of a library going on.
They
there.
really are. Netflix, watch your back. Right, guys, that's it. We've given you some corkers this week. There's so much that you guys can watch, whether or not you're after a bit of nostalgia, you're after something very new, very different, very Seth Rogen, or if you're after something that maybe will just get you thinking like Roman J. Israel Esquire. There's really good choices out there for everyone. So we'll be back next week with more movies for you across all of the boards, from digital to Freeview to streaming as well. So stick with us. This has been Off Screen. I've been Becks Perfect.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.